Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I know from my conversation with my fellow Americans and some fellow Canadians that for you guys it's harder to understand why people in Europe, especially in the Eastern Europe and the Balkans, are so, how should I put it, they hate one another, or why they maybe not. They do hate one another, but if I use the word hate, you might think it's so extreme that it's a wild imagination and exaggeration. But it's not. It's not. There are some passions within the country's conscious, a nation conscious, coming from from hundreds of years back, that are accumulated. And you can't just, it's like it's ready, it could always explode in something. And especially the countries, or more the countries who have borders together, because those territories were left and right, they overlapped, took over this, this got to over it, and those territories were not like, civilized, they were like humans, like animals, and they killed one another. These guys butchered those guys when they were on top, and the other guys butchered the other ones when they were on top. So, and these things were kept alive, and they're still underneath. But nevertheless, why am I saying all this? Is because I met a lot of Americans who said, well, why so much hatred? Why do you guys, you can't just get along? Why can't you just, guys, accept the reality and so on? And it's hard to explain because it will be too long, but in a short explanation was the one I just gave you. Too many overlaps, too many crimes on both sides, and they remain in your family, remain in your conscience of the nation. So when people say about, Poland helps Ukraine, I don't even know how to tell you, like my fellow Americans and Canadians, what that means. It's like you would say a Dutch loves a German, kind of like that, or like a Jew loves a German, kind of like that. This is how tensioned the situation is over there. Now we have Russia and Belarus, who are, in this aspect, they know what they're talking about, and the Poles and the Ukrainians know exactly what they're talking about. These guys here do not want to accept it. I made some videos with the Poles, talking here and there, and the Ukrainians, yeah, you take our guys over there, but I don't think you really, do it for because you have a big heart. No, that's not happening. And Putin, for instance, and what's his name? Lukashenko, is that his name? The president of Belarus. They claimed that the only reason why, one of the reasons, not the only one, the main reason why Poland helps Ukraine is because they will end up with territories from Ukraine, from Western Ukraine. And obviously they were painted as crazies, but for us, people from that area, it was not crazy at all. This, you say, oh, this is just a conspiracy theory or this and that. Not for us over there. Not for us over there. Because think about for instance, the Serbs and the Kosovarians. If the both of them, if they could, they would just take care of the other nation entirely. Think I'm talking about stupid stuff? Befriend an Kosovarian, but you have to and ask him about that, or befriend a Serb and ask him about that. But when I say befriend, don't just see him one time. You have to build. Maybe there are some, just because I know the Serbs are very straightforward, so they might tell you exactly what they think, and the Croatians too. They will tell you exactly. Yeah, hug those. I would just take care of all of them. I met this kind of people. I know how things and passion runs over there. Now, this article that I have here is, I think, how Poland shows its real intentions. You know, everybody talked nicely about Ukraine, and it was nice with Ukraine and help Ukraine and blah 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 Ukraine. Now you never heard anything bad spoken about Ukraine from the Western countries, from Poland. Have you heard anything? I haven't. The only thing that I read was an article that said that the Poles will not provide the refugees, the Ukrainian refugees, with financial aid. You know, like you go over there and stay over there on the governments and the Poles' taxes, which is understandable, right? But this was the only thing that was a stop. This is Poland. We help you, but that's it. That's it. You find work or you don't find work. European Union, whoever is going to give us money to take care of it. Now, this article that I have here talks about Poland and Ukraine, and this is from Reuters from July 11th. Poland asks Ukraine to confront dark past despite common front against Moscow. What is that dark past? So they're just pointing fingers, you're a bad dude. Why? And let's see. Poland's president on Monday called for Ukraine to admit what he called the shameful truth about how Ukrainian nationalists had massacred over 100,000 Poles during World War II, despite Kiev and Warsaw common front against Russia now. Why would you say that? Why would you say that now? Do you think the Ukrainians cannot say something about that? Why would you say that now? Why do you need to admit it? What's the goal? He just didn't just show up from a bathroom and just made his statement. That was with a goal. What's the intention? And what if they say yes, we admit it? What's going to happen next? That's what I'm talking about. The remarks by the Andrzej Duda were made on the 79th anniversary of the 1943 killings of Volhynia in Nazi-occupied Poland, and were a pointed reminder of the complex historical ties between Warsaw and Kiev at a time when Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought the two neighbors closer together. In this kind of situation, you're not going to tell them like you go over there at, let's say, D-Day, you know, the debarkation, the landing of the armed forces. You're not going to, when you go over there, you're not going to tell the Germans, hey, you're Nazis, you're this, you killed our... No, because we're allies, we're friends. Why would this guy mention that? Why? You say, well, it should be. Well, I don't think the political situation would, show solidarity and unification, or how they call it. They are together. Poland has opened its doors to Ukrainian refugees, and Duda has allowed his country to be used as a logistical hub to keep Ukraine supplies as it fights an exhausting war of attrition against Russia. But at the Warsaw ceremony on Monday, Duda said that the truth about the wartime massacres and other like it in eastern Galicia from 1945 to 1944 to 1945 had to be firmly and clearly stated, regardless, and called on Kiev to acknowledge the ethnic cleansing of Poles by Ukrainian nationalist militias. Putin talks about nationalists and all that in Ukraine. Why is this guy talking about this? And I'm quoting, "It was not about, and it's not about revenge. It was not about, and is not about revenge. About any retaliation." Yeah, I believe zero. "There is no better proof of this than the times we have now. Now. But what about tomorrow?" Duda said, referring to the two countries' current cooperation against Russia. The issue was complex for Ukrainians, he said, since some regarded the same militias as heroes for the resistance they mounted against the Soviet Union, and as a symbol of Kiev's painful struggle for independence from Moscow. Those who we know were murderers were also heroes for Ukraine at other times and with a different enemy, and often died at the hands of the Soviets, fighting with deep faith for an independent, free Ukraine. Duda tries to melt it, makes it nice. The Polish parliament has said that the murders carried out between 43 and 45 by the Ukrainian insurgent army and the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists under the leadership of Stefan Bandera bore elements of genocide. Ukraine has not accepted that assertion and often refers to the Volhynia events as part of a conflict between Poland and Ukraine which affected both nations. Polish historians say that up to 12,000 Ukrainians were also killed by Polish retaliation operation. I'm telling you. There was no immediate reaction from Ukraine to Duda's comments, but his remarks are likely to be seen as ill-timed in some Ukrainian circles who view, they're normal Ukrainians, sir. If you're a Ukrainian, you don't take those, oh yeah, no, you don't take like that. An attempt to discuss such events now as part of the Russian-inspired attempt to falsely cast Ukraine as a country in need of the denazification. One of the stated aims of what Russia calls its special military operation. Are the Poles pulling the rug off the Ukrainians? Or they say you owe me. That means what? Give me something. Why would you say this? It's, as I said, ill-timed. I think it's right time because now Ukraine is weak. Remember when the Germans invaded Poland? Poland had to fight the Germans. And then when the Soviets got in, why did they get in? Poland was weak. He had to fight two fronts. So what do you think Ukraine will do now? You got the Russians over there. Do you think they're going to be able to say to Poland, you? Now it depends what the Brits will tell them. You don't know. So this gives me half, 50% of my belief, my assessment, that something is going to happen in West Ukraine. I have another article after this that I'm going to discuss what Zelensky gave Poles. Now correlate that to this. So the Poles are like this, and the Ukrainians, not Ukrainians, Zelensky, not the Ukrainians, gives the Poles more rights within Ukraine. You wouldn't believe that. More rights to the Poles within Ukraine. Lukashenko and Putin and Lavrov seem to get it right. And it was not hard because, as I said, under the circumstances of those Eastern Europeans, Central Europeans, Balkan states, always like that. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.